storming the court.
Hey y'all, watch this.
Okay, welcome back. Third segment of the TD show here today on January 18th. Just got done talking about the professional sports. We've touched all of them but the NBA. Don't have any big NBA news to talk about, but we are going to move on to a little collegiate sports. Talk about some college basketball. Anything big been happening this week? I know there's been a few big upsets this week in college basketball.
Yeah, I mean, some just headlines, I guess. You had Ohio State, who started 15-0. Then they go 0-3 in the Big Ten. Then you got Wisconsin. They got upset by Indiana. Then you had Kentucky, who got upset by Arkansas on that last-second tip dunk.
Yeah, crazy. Something I'll talk about here. We'll just go ahead and jump right into UK basketball. Not a big fan. Not a big UK fan. Got on a red shirt. That doesn't mean anything. Got it for Christmas. It's nice. But talking about UK this year, kind of where we thought they'd be as freshmen. Something we've kind of thought. And who's scoring the points is where we thought it'd be as well. Julius Randle's averaging 16.9. James Young 14.6. Aaron Harrison 14.1 and Andrew Harrison 10.9. Willie Cauley-Stein 8.9. Last game against Arkansas, a good game if you're a college basketball fan. Not a great game if you're a University of Kentucky fan. Got to see a lot of things that you won't see very often in a basketball game. I mean, I bet the refs went to the hood 5 or 6 times to relook at plays. I got to see a ball go off of a ref out of bounds. I knew that was the rule, but I've never seen it. Also saw a ball get stuck in the center of the scoreboard at Bud Walton Stadium, which I can't believe doesn't happen more than it does. But altogether, a pretty good game if you like college basketball. All things considered, we'll talk about some of the new rules and how that's kind of affected the game a little later on. But with all things considered, a great game. For UK, James Young had 23 points. Julius Randle had 20. How we lost the game and what killed us, 17 turnovers. Andrew Harrison had 5. Now, not surprising when you touch the ball as much as he does. What was really surprising to me was Randle had 5. Now, you know, when you run over somebody and get an offensive foul and give the ball back, that's a turnover. He's been triple teamed most of the year. He knows to kick it out, and he's trying to kick it out. Too many arms and legs in the way to get the ball back out. Arkansas only had 6 turnovers, and they had very balanced scoring. I mean, like 12 points for everybody that played in the game for them. They also had just lost a home game for the first time in 24 games in overtime to Florida after having a 7-minute lead with like a minute left to go. Got that blown. So, of course, they were fired up, came out a little more ready to play than UK did. I thought UK did a great job battling back and getting close, lost in a close one. Who I thought stood out to me, who won't stand out in the stat sheet. They won't stand out in the stat sheet at all this year, this game or any game coming up, is Jared Polson. He came in, there was only 1 turnover during the time period he's in the game. Based on, and 5 for our starting point guard. He played 17 minutes, never scored, did not score a point, had some assists though, ran the ball and protected it very well. Where Polson kind of lacks is he can't defend these much bigger players. But as far as running the offense, being a leader, staying cool and collected, great player in that sense. What stood out to me the most was the fouls. 60 total fouls called, which we know is not a good thing for UK because they can't hit free throws very well. We did shoot them a little better this game, but not great at all. That's the way college basketball is going. With if you drive past the 3-point line, you're probably going to get fouled. What do you think about the way we're officiating college basketball? The way the rules have kind of changed the game a little bit.
Here's the thing: growing up, the basketball that you and I played and that we watched is different from the basketball that is being played or watched now. I believe they went upon a slippery slope where they said you can hand check people. Basketball is a non-contact sport, but they've kind of shifted away from that. They said if you want to taunt people after a dunk, you can. If you want to take 3 or 4 steps down the lane to dunk, you can. If you want to palm the ball or carry the ball while you're dribbling, you can. And my concern now is that we've went down that slippery slope from one game to what we have now. It looks like we're going to go reverse through a slippery slope where they say, all right, now you can't hand check and you can't have contact. And now I'm wondering, is the next things to come the taunting, the walking, and the carrying? Because, I mean, you need to decide what you want if you're the NCAA. And I believe this comes, I mean, we see the NCAA mocking a lot of whatever the NBA does. Whatever direction the NBA goes in, the NCAA goes in. So, I mean, you've got to get together and decide what you want out of the sport.
I agree. There's got to be a happy medium somewhere. These touch fouls drive me crazy. I think that if you brush a guy and it doesn't impede his movement, if he's still driving to the basket and you are brushed up against him, if you don't change his direction with your contact, should not be a foul. I'd be 100% okay with the walking. It drives me crazy. NBA and college drives me crazy when people take 6 steps and throw it down. Taunting, obviously, it gets the people excited. But even if you get a taunting and then a technical foul, people are still going to be excited. The fouls are really just what's kind of... I guess it's because we went from such a hard physical game straight back to we're really going to do this. The other thing that I wish we could get some kind of clarity, I wish we could go 2 years in a row with the rule staying the same, the block charge. That changes every single year. First we put the stripe on the floor, then referees look down at the stripe, and if you were in the stripe, it didn't matter what happened. You could have been turned over backwards, tying your shoe, or you could have punched somebody in the face, and it was going to be a charge. It was going to be a block if you were in that little spot right there. And then they stopped focusing on that, looked at it, and they weren't calling any charges. And now, if there's just no consistency, I think, in the way that they call charges. This isn't just in the SEC or just in UK games. I think it's throughout the entire NCAA, at least in Division I sports.
To me, it's simple. If a guy is set up, ready to take a charge, and you make contact with him, it's a charge. If he's there and he's set up, it's a charge. If the defender is there, that should make you have to do something
to go around him.
Right. He was there first. You don't have any kind of first say-so in where you get to be on the court as an offense against a defense.
Yeah, I think it's kind of a within the feet thing. If you're within his set feet, his feet are set, whether they've just been set or he's been standing there for 10 minutes, I don't care if both his feet are down and you hit him between his feet, meaning the core of his body, he's not leaning in front of you, it should be a charge. Whether he's got his arms up, hands down, picking his nose, scratching his butt, if your feet are set and he hits you and you get hit in the middle of the body somewhere, it should be a charge. Now I don't want people leading into him and taking charges backwards, but that's how I look at it. But me personally, there wasn't going to be no flopping and falling down when I got ran over. It was going to be one of us is going to fall down, and most of the time it's not going to be me. But I think that should be all right. If you stand there and a guy hits you wide open, you shouldn't have to fall down.
Yeah, but I mean that's become part of it. I mean that's what the refs look for now. I mean really I used to be a huge college basketball fan, and before that I was a huge NBA fan. But the way the games have went and the officiating has went, it's just kind of turned me off being a real fundamental basketball enthusiast. And I mean, really,
you need to watch girls basketball.
High school basketball. High school basketball hasn't changed yet.
Yeah.
I still enjoy watching high school basketball. The thing is, I want to see a game where players play defense without their hands. Their hands are to the side or they're up in the air. They're not forward. I'm not a advocate for hand checking. If you have to hand check, then obviously you're not as good a defensive player as that player is an offensive player. I don't believe there should be taunting or walking. I believe you should dribble to the goal, you should score, you should turn around, you should run back and play defense. I mean, that's what I would enjoy seeing out of college basketball.
Yeah. And what you have to understand, I guess, is it's weird now because we're older than these people that are playing ball in college.
That's true. As I'm sitting here, I'm thinking I'm Uncle TJ, I'm Grandpa TJ talking about this sport instead of the young gun.
It's something I guess we're just getting used to. But we watched guys play ball in the NBA that came out there and cared about winning games in the NBA. Well, we watched Michael Jordan, we watched Shaq. We watched a lot of great players play in the NBA who cared about winning ball, being the absolute best ball player in the NBA. players in the NBA the past 10 years cared about making the most money in the NBA,
Yeah.
having the biggest necklace in the NBA, having the fanciest dunk and the most flamboyant celebration in
And
the NBA.
yeah, and anymore, it's about not necessarily winning or even scoring. It's about showing up the defender in some capacity, just one-on-one. So
Yeah, it's a 5 one-on-one games now.
And it's not true for every team. I mean, it's certainly the San Antonio Spurs and Oklahoma City to an extent. If you watch a little bit of them, you see that it's not that way. But for the most part, that is the direction that basketball is going in.
Yeah, and that's the people who are playing college basketball now, when they were middle school, high school age, learning these things, they would, I remember watching, when I was in middle school, watching Allen Iverson go up under the, now he's a bad example of what I was talking about, but I remember watching him go up from one side, bring the ball under and lay it in on the other side. I practiced that for 6 weeks. And, these guys playing basketball now, they saw those guys do it, they want to emulate that,
Yeah.
and it's changing the game a little bit.
And speaking of that, and part of the problem too is you're giving too much power to players at too much of a young age. When kids are 15 and 16, there's people in their ear telling them how much money they're going to make if they're the best. And therefore, they forget about whatever team they're playing with, and they learn how to play one-on-one out there by themselves, and it just carries over to each level of the game.
Yeah.
Something we got a little question on Twitter, it's been talked about all week, is the rushing of the floor in upset home games. What are your thoughts on that?
Here's the thing. Upset home games. If you're the home team, you win a big game. I get it. I'm not against it. I just think, like everything, like the Bible says, and like we've heard our whole lives, there's a time and a place for it. You got to know your role, as The Rock would say. Know your role.
Jabroni.
Yeah. And if you're a team that's 0-36, and you have played no one, and you come in and beat another team,
well, that would be the time to rush the floor.
no, listen to
36.
me. Listen, if you're nobody and you beat somebody that's, they're number 20 in the nation, come on. Come on. You don't rush the floor for that. Now, I get it. If it's a big game, if it's a...
So wait a second. If you're saying if you're 0-30 and you beat somebody that's 20 in the nation, you shouldn't rush the floor?
I don't know. All I'm saying
Those kids
is
haven't won a game in 30 games, and they can't rush the floor after they beat a ranked
you
opponent.
can rush the floor. I mean, I don't care. Rush the floor whenever you want to, but know that if you are nobody, if you're not going anywhere, people might make fun of you for it. Hey, this is America. You can do whatever you want to do, but somebody might talk about you for doing it. But there's a lot of emotion. I love to see emotion. That's something that I've been really on in at least our local high school sports. Nobody's out there showing emotion. The kids are. There's no fans. If they win a game tonight, I'm rushing the floor. Write that down. I will be on that floor when they beat South Warren tonight.
All right, here's the deal. I mean, first, player and coach safety.
Yeah.
You want to make sure that they you don't want to impede them. You want to let them get off the floor. You don't want to contact them while you're rushing the floor. But I say in most scenarios with kids that are 18 to 22, this is the best time of their life. Let them rush the floor. Let them have some fun.
Yeah. I mean,
and there was people
I've been involved in some floor rushing in my day.
And I mean,
it was a good time.
There's talk of, IU being shown up or whatever, talk about them because they rushed the floor over Wisconsin. Wisconsin's a good team.
And when Indiana wins a game, they rush the floor. That's something you expect from Indiana.
Yeah.
And you also got to know when it's enough. We beat Wisconsin. Now, if you win a game next week, you better stay in your seat.
I mean, how many times do you see fans rush the floor?
All right, let me put it to you this. I've watched UK my whole life, so I'm a little biased. Every time we get beat on somebody's court, that's the game of the year.
It's the same way with Kansas, with Duke, with North Carolina.
I agree. And growing up watching
that's what you got to expect. If you're a fan of those teams, you have to expect that's going to happen.
I agree. And also being a big fan of WKU sports, I can see the other side. I can see the other side of it, and I get it.
And being from Metcalfe County, playing high school sports for Metcalfe County and winning in region. I mean, it's the same concept.
I love when fans get fired up. I love to go to games and watch fans chant. I mean, I didn't play a lot in high school. I mean, I was not any good. But I had the best time sitting on the bench listening to the opposing team mock us. and most of our fans mock them back. But all I'm saying is, just know your role. Know when it's a good idea. Think it through, and then show your emotion. Support your team. I love supporting your team. Be safe.
95% of the time, it's a good idea.
Well, before we get off of Kentucky entirely, they got a big game coming up. Be on as soon as we get done. So when you get done listening to us, flip your TV on.
But make sure you finish listening to us
Yeah,
first.
listen to us first, and then flip your TV on. They're going to be playing Tennessee. Now, not the most storied rivalry in college basketball. Probably the most storied rivalry in SEC basketball, easily. They've been playing since 1910, 221 matchups. How many people, aside from Duke and North Carolina, who's played 221 times? That's a lot of games.
I'd imagine Harvard and Yale have played
Yeah.
a lot, and Harvard and Princeton and Yale, and Brown and Yale, and Brown and Princeton. But you see where I'm going
I see
with
where
this.
you're going with that.
They've been around a while.
Yeah. UK leads the series. I knew that they had been a lot better historically than Tennessee had, but until I started looking at these stats, I didn't realize just how many more times they won. 154 to 67. Tennessee's 11-5 this year, just beat Auburn. McCrae's averaging 19 points. Stokes averaging 13 points. How do we win this game? Don't turn the ball over.
Score more points than the other team.
By not turning the ball over. And when we turn the ball over, we lose. Well, who's the key to this game? Alex Poitras. I've said this for 2 weeks.
Key to every game. I should play
Listen
more.
to me. No, I like the way he's playing right now. He comes off the bench. He's averaging 6 points per game, 6 rebounds per game in 16 minutes, shooting 52%. But those numbers are rising. Against Arkansas, he was 5 for 7, had 12.6 rebounds, played 32 minutes. You get him in for half a game. I agree with that. About 15 minutes first half, 15 minutes second half, brings fresh legs, excitement. We'll talk about it more later, but I think if Alex Poitras can do great, we win that game. I don't think we're going to have much of a problem with Tennessee. I'm going to knock on wood here because you never know playing in Tennessee. We're at home. Surely to gosh, we're going to be fired up. So we'll see what happens with that when it gets here.
Something I want to touch on real fast, if I can, before we get off college basketball.
We got all day.
Something that we could possibly see this year. I'm not saying that we're going to see it. I'm not predicting it. But we could possibly see the University of Kentucky, Duke, Kansas, and North Carolina all not in the top 25. And I'm assuming you'd have to go back a really long time to see that.
Yeah, we know that Kentucky's been out of it last year. And then again under Gillespie, in the past 10 years, we've had a couple times we've dipped out of it. I know for a fact that that Duke hasn't been out of it since 94.
94, yeah.
And Duke and North Carolina together haven't been out of it since somewhere in the early 80s.
Yeah.
I want to say it was 31 years ago. If anybody knows exactly, feel free to tweet it at me. But I know it was at least 30 years ago. It's been a long time since this has happened. The four...
And, it's not that any of them are terrible. It's just that they're more mediocre than we're used, at least to one of them being... Generally, one of the four is an elite team.
I agree, but let me throw this name in there. How about UCLA? I mean, they've had some good years, but over the past few years they've fallen off. I don't even know what their record is. Let's see.
They've certainly struggled. I mean, and if you look at their program history as a whole, it would obviously rank right there with UK, Duke, Kansas, UNC, and
yeah.
I mean they've even won a national championship in the past decade. But when you want to talk about sustained success over the past decade, I'm not sure you would include them in the same argument as UK,
in the past
Duke, Kansas. And a team that's making their way into that argument is the team that's currently ranked second.
I agree.
Syracuse, who has, since 2000, has really been a top 10 team.
UCLA this year's 14-3, so they're doing pretty well. Yeah, they're not in. Yeah, but they're not in where the power conferences are now in basketball. They're on the other side of the country.
In any top conference team can start out 4-3.
I mean,
we just saw Ohio State start out 15-0, and then when they start playing conference opponents, they go 0-3. So it's easy to do. I'm not diminishing them for going 14-3. I'm just saying it's not a hard feat.
And they're
to
number 20,
follow.
25 right now.
So just to add to it, you could see UCLA, UNC, Kansas, Duke.
Yeah, UCLA will probably fall out with one more loss. But Syracuse, I've watched them play 2.5 times. I've watched bits and pieces of about 5 games, so I'm going to call it. I've watched them 2.5 whole games. They look really, really good. And now they've got a tough schedule ahead of them, just as Duke does and North Carolina does. That's probably the toughest area to play this year in college basketball. Is that eastern section of the ACC?
The ACC is going to be tough. I mean, you got Louisville coming in next year, and you got Syracuse, Duke, North Carolina, who you assume is going to rebound. It's going to be a tough conference. It's going to be the SEC of football.
I agree, and it has been for a few years.
Yeah, but now you add Syracuse and Louisville to it.
Yep.
It's going to be tough.
And Syracuse, who always been all right, but the past 4 or 5 years have been excellent.
The king of the
Bayham's
2-3
done a great
zone.
job up there. Talking about college sports before we get out of it completely, we know about Charlie Strong leaving Louisville, going to Texas. A lot of hype around it. I like the hire a lot.
A lot more than Pat Forte.
Yeah, little news going on over there this week. What you got for us?
He basically put up 11 Charlie Strong commandments. I don't know that he went up to the mount and that they were in stone and he held them up, but nevertheless he probably hung them up paper form in the locker room. Basically saying all players will attend their classes and sit in the front 2 rows of classes. My thing is, what about if there's more players in there than there's seats in the front 2 rows?
My other thing is, I had a few classes where they made you sit in alphabetical order.
Yeah, that's true.
But they're football players at University of Texas.
Yeah, they'll
probably get a little bit of special treatment.
If a player misses class, he runs until it hurts. If he misses 2 classes, his entire position unit runs. And if he misses 3, the position coaches run. Now, what do you think about that?
I guarantee my position coach, that son is going to be going to class.
He'll be taking them to class after he misses 2.
Listen, I had a class with some WKU football players, and I remember Elson being in there on 5 or 6 occasions, just sitting in the back of the class with his feet propped up.
Well, I'd say they'll probably see Strong in the classes as well. Number 4, no earrings in the football building, no drugs, no stealing, no guns. Treat women with respect.
That was an obvious one.
Yeah, I mean,
earrings in a football building, I could see. The rest
what
of
about
that.
no guns in Texas? Texas is a state where everybody carries a gun.
Well, let's also remember that you have to be 21
Yeah.
to own a handgun. Most of these players aren't going to be.
Yeah, you're right. College athletes
Highest
these days aren't.
percentage, right, are not going to be.
Everybody's going to the NFL.
Pretty acceptable
Yeah,
rule.
you're right.
Also, most campuses don't allow you to have weapons on. Anyway, moving on.
Players may not live off campus anymore unless they're a senior who meets certain academic standards. The team will all live together, eat together, suffer together, and hang out together. There's no time for rebuild. I don't have time for that. The expectation is for Texas is to win right now, and he's right.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he's basically saying, look, guys, it's on me. I have to win now, so you're going to have to win.
And if you want to play here, you want to wear that big Longhorn on your jersey, have it on your helmet. If you're going to play by these rules.
That's right. Players will learn that they would rather practice than milk a minor injury. The focus is on winning and graduating. Strong met individually with seniors and key leaders to reemphasize that the plan is to win now. And he basically says, I don't want to just talk about things. I want to get them done, so let's do it.
How can you argue with that?
I mean,
how can you not want that? I want to send my kid to Texas.
And the thing is, on Mac Brown on his way out, they were saying he was too much of a player's coach, too buddy-buddy.
Yeah.
And I believe Charlie Strong is trying to come in as a strong coach and say, look, this is what we got to do. I'm going to have to be stern here.
Yeah, I like the hire. I'm not a big Louisville follower. I knew a lot about Charlie Strong. Didn't know a lot about his personal life until he got hired here. I think it's going to be a great system. He's got the talent pool there to win with. He's obviously dedicated and willing to do it. I think it's going to be good for him.
I do too. But we're almost up against the break, so let's get to my favorite part of the show. 2 minutes.
Gonna throw on a big slab of beef.
This is a special chili recipe. I probably shouldn't have been giving it out. My in-laws here, they say might track me down. If you don't hear from me next week, I'm in a holler on Lone Star Ridge. Come look for me. But it is pretty simple. A can of tomatoes. This is like a homemade, canned mason jar of tomatoes. Can of tomato juice. Pound of hamburger meat. Package of macaroni noodles. Can of chili beans. A can of chili starter. It's like Rotel stuff. Cayenne pepper for as hot as you want to make it. Never how much you want it. Throw some in there. And paprika. Just as warm as you want it to be. All you got to do is brown the hamburger cut you up an onion, stick all those ingredients I just gave you with the onion, the hamburger meat, the noodles, all the juices, and chili beans and chili starter in the crock pot. Let that sucker simmer all day. You can take a little taste, throw a little paprika in until you get it as warm as you want it to be. Throw a little cayenne if you want a little extra hot. Make your grilled cheese and eat it up. Keep you warm on a cool winter night.
Especially if we get back down to 8 below or whatever it was.
Yeah, if the polar
last
vortex
week.
comes in, I'll put this up on Twitter and you can get it. But we'll be back. Got a lot left to talk about. 30 more minutes to do it. We'll see you in 3 minutes here on the TD Show.